In this video, I'll give you my insight about the whole market and I'll give you the best entry prices for target stock. Hello fellow investors, how are your portfolios doing? Before I screen target stock, I'll give you my quick insights about the markets because I know some of you are asking where are we going from here. If we pull up the SPX500 index charts, the lowest price was 3810.7 in May 2022. And to tell you honestly, I think we've seen the bottom, at least for this quarter. And my indication for that was the big tech stocks, specifically Apple stock. Apple stock dropping down to 132.61 lowest price was a good indication of the market's bottoming, at least for the quarter. Why Apple? Well, because Apple is a huge part of any ETFs that mix the markets. Actually, I called on this on my previous video that Apple would be bottoming. Well, at least have a tradable bottom at 137. And look at that support forming for Apple, 137, right? Now, where do we go from here? I look at the consumer's behavior from revenues perspective of several stocks, mostly the consumer defensive stocks. I still can say that the spending is still there. The consumer spending is still strong, but with the Fed's tightening of rates and inflation going hot, I think we'll see spending slow down, and for that I see headwinds for Apple, specifically Apple, and that of course would bring the markets down. But again, if Apple reports a strong earnings, revenue wise, then I think the markets could surge from there because clearly inflation is not a problem for consumers. For now, this quarter, if Apple can hold 137, I think the markets should hold the 3,800 levels. I see the markets being choppy till the next quarter earnings. Now for target stock, I must admit I did not see that coming. That earnings report was so bad, it deserved that 24% plunge, to be honest. I covered that in my previous video. Watch it if you haven't already. Target stock was in my buy list, but I was clear that I had only included it in my buy list because I didn't know how the stocks trade and that Target was not valued like other stocks in the sector, like a Walmart and a Costco, trading above 20s and 30s of PEs. I think this should be a lesson to everyone. You only want to own stocks you're okay DCAing down. Now, if you still own Target, TGT stock, I'd give you my best entry prices for the stock. This time, I'm screening it with all the data I've gathered. This time, I'm confident I'd give you the best entry price for the stock, at least for this quarter. Target is currently trading at $159.67 with market cap of 74.04 billion and PE ratio of 13.24. They give out an annual dividend of $3.6 per share, a yield of 2.25% of the current price. It's now down 40.64% of the highs. This is Target's valuation summary. We've screened WMT and Costco, and we've established that my second and fourth metrics are not the best metrics for these kinds of stocks. So this time, we'll not be discussing them, although I'll show you a glimpse of the metric. Judging by these metrics, also, I'm not buying Target for the third metric because the price to free cash flow is 34.39, beyond my 20 threshold. So it's just the first and the fifth metric. Again, you'd see here my fair values and entry prices for the stock. I'm not saying Target is a $44 stock, a $60 stock. This is merely the price if we're screening Target like the rest of the stocks. Intrinsic value of 147.83. This is from Guru Focus. I don't own the stock. I don't think paying premium for the stock is necessary. Again, I don't like holding these kinds of stocks for the long term. I think it's a trade play. Not necessarily a long-term play. Let's look more into Target stock. EPS is nicely growing. OSN is nicely decreasing. Bought back 78 million shares in 5 years. The PE to EPS ratio is 1.09. I think they're doing a good job at increasing their net income, increasing shareholder value by issuing dividends and buying back shares. Target's margins are higher than that of Walmart and Costco, almost 2 times their margins actually, from 3 to 6%. Price to free cash flow is too high for my liking, again because they reported a weak quarter. Dividends are safe though, I think for Target, only 29.73% payout ratio. PB ratio is high, 6.87. I want this below 5. Current ratio is 0.87, also bad for the quarter. Debt levels are horrible for Target as well, mostly because the trailing 12 months cash position and free cash flow are weak, so I'm not surprised. But in the long run, I still see Target doing well with these metrics. Now, I'll give you the best entry prices for Target using my fifth metric, the historical PE, the historical price to free cash flow, the historical PBs. These three here. Again, my allowable PE for all stocks is 5, and the equivalent price for that is $116.17. How did I get that? Well, 10.774 billion here is the total equity MRQ, most recent quarter. Multiply that by the PB ratio to get the market cap, and then divide that by the number of shares, and you get the price. Target is currently at 6.87 PB. My allowable is 5. Historically, the lowest PB is 3.37 to 3.43. But again, we have to be realistic also with our entry price. I'm not saying it's not gonna drop to those prices, but maybe it will, maybe it won't, but we can always DCA down from our initial entry price. Again, 116.17 is the most realistic entry price. We have to then confirm this with other metrics, the historical price to free cash flow and historical PE. For historical price to free cash flow, if you remember, I have an allowable price to free cash flow of only 20. Beyond that, I'm not buying. At 20 price to free cash flow, we have a price of 92.86. To be honest, 92.86 is not so bad an entry. It's also within my 5 PB ratio limit, so 92.86 is a doable entry price. Next is the historical PE. We're looking anything below 116.17, and I don't see anything here, so I really can't use this metric because then I'd be buying price above 5 PB, right? So finally, we've established two possible entry prices for target stock, $116.17 and $92.86. That could be the high and the mid entry prices. The lowest entry could be $78.3, the lowest PB ratio historically. If we look back, that's 3.37 PB. Let's confirm these prices to their charts. This is Target's charts. You know I care about my dividend, so 3% dividend yield is $120, 4% is $90. High entry price is $116.17. Mid price is $92.86 and low of $78.3. I think both $116 and $93 are both feasible entry prices, but I'd start the position at $116. I have a 3% dividend yield there, so I'd happily DCA down to 4% dividend yield at 90. So that's my take on target stock, $116 for the long run. See you next video.